President Donald Trump is not doing well, and I don't mean because he has coronavirus. It means his campaign is also falling apart. According to pollsters and Republican campaign consultants, Donald Trump is in real danger of losing this election to Joe Biden, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. As one longtime Republican campaign consultant put it, quote, "The presidency is Biden's to lose." Now, that said, I never really counted Democrats to try to not blow it. But even with Joe Biden being Joe Biden and doing gaffe after gaffe and going and trashing progressives and saying dumb things, Joe Biden's still in a better position than Hillary Clinton was back in 2016. I mean, and so, this is not 2016 Redux. And I was kind of wrong about that when I talked about it. But again, all of this was prior to coronavirus. That really has changed the game. And by the way, speaking of 2016, the polling, a lot of people will say, look, the polling was wrong. Polling's never perfect. Let's be fair about that. But the polling back then was actually fairly accurate, and the margins were really thin in swing states. They predicted a 3-point Clinton win when it came to the popular vote. She won by about 2 points, or about 3 million votes. Now, she barely lost Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Why? She didn't campaign there. She thought, oh, no, it's a lock. Well, it wasn't a lock. Donald Trump supporters outperformed the polls, and that's just what happened in the Midwest. That said, the polling had it within about 3, and she lost by, again, less than 1 point margins. And so understand that it was actually really close. Now, Trump won big in the Midwest with seniors, with suburban Republican women, of course. And, well, fast forward to 2020. Is he doing well with those groups? No, not doing well with those groups. And a lot of it does have to do with his response to coronavirus, which was a disaster. As Bloomberg reports, Trump now trails Biden by an average of 9.7% nationally, which, again, doesn't matter as much because we all know Donald Trump is going to lose the popular vote. Most Republicans, at least a lot of Republicans in past elections, have lost the popular vote, but still won thanks to the Electoral College. So that's really what we need to focus on. Well, the Electoral College takes into account a lot of these battleground states, and that's why they are battleground states. Because if you win those, you win the Electoral College, and you end up winning the presidency. So how's he doing in electoral in these battleground Electoral College states? Biden is winning about 5 to 7 points in these states, according to Real Clear Politics average of polling. Look, I would say whenever we talk about polls, there are lots of caveats, right? And so, of course, you got to mention those. Polling, again, not always accurate. But when you look at the average, I mean, with 25 days left, it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all for him. How do you catch up in a month? How do you catch up in a month? And by the way, you don't even, and this is according to the report. Let me read that. The challenge got even harder. I'm sorry, with 25 days left, it's not clear how Trump can make up that lost ground. The challenge got even harder Thursday when Trump rejected the idea of a virtual debate with Joe Biden next week, erasing one of his few remaining opportunities to change the trajectory of the race. And so that is a problem. How are you supposed to get out your message if you're sick with coronavirus and you can't leave the White House? Although he's probably going to try anyway. But right now, can't leave the White House. Got coronavirus. And so he can't go out and campaign. And then he's like, no, we're not going to do a debate with Joe Biden virtually. It's not going to happen. Well, okay, you're just going to basically leave the first debate, the Tuesday debate, on the record as being the only debate in the race. The one where you were a complete unmitigated disaster and looked like a crazy person. Okay, well, sure. All right. Go with that direction then. Now, by the way, Clinton, back in 2016, was only up by about 3 points in those battleground states. Joe Biden, 5 to 7. That's a gigantic lead in polling. That said, you can be skeptical. Let's not think that Joe Biden's got it in the bag. There is voter suppression. There's dirty tactics. There's, trying to basically cast out on mail-in voting. There's the attacks in the post office. There's all of that stuff. So don't underestimate the willingness for Republicans to cheat. And that's why, of course, I think there needs to be a gigantic turnout for Joe Biden. I know, it sucks, right? I'm not a Joe Biden fan, but there's got to be gigantic turnout just to undo or override all the fuckery that Republicans are going to bring to this election. And so, nonetheless, Republicans are spooked. And that's, by the way, why they're going to do such lengths, because they do not want to lose. Now, this is according to conservative pollster Frank Luntz. He said the president's refusal to do the debates under new rules could deal a death blow to his campaign. Quote, I don't see how Donald Trump catches Joe Biden without having 2 debates. Without that debate, I can't do the math to take him where he needs to be if he expects to win this election. Can't do the math. There is no math. It doesn't exist, according to Frank Luntz. I mean, it makes it really, really difficult. There's more. Ed Rogers, veteran GOP strategist and advisor to Ronald Reagan. He tells Bloomberg if Trump runs a good campaign from here on out, and Biden runs a good campaign from here on out, it probably looks like Biden's going to win. Or they could, Donald Trump could continue running the campaign that he's running, which is a disaster, a train wreck, a garbage fire. And Joe Biden could also run a crappy campaign, which he's likely going to do. And it's still probably going to end up going to Biden. I mean, very, very likely. Very likely. And so that's bad. It's really bad. As I said before, it's Biden's race to mess up. And, of course, he can. He can. But is he going to? I don't think so. It's really, really close. We've got less than a month. And Donald Trump's got coronavirus, so he can't even campaign. So I guess it looks like Biden's biggest advantage is a virus that Donald Trump fucked up the response to. That is the true winner of the 2020 campaign. Coronavirus 2020. Or COVID 2020. There you go. Now, one more Republican pollster. Whit Ayers adds this. He says, when one candidate has a bad debate, and few candidates have had as bad of a debate as Donald Trump did last Tuesday, there's a temporary bump for the opponent, and things settle back down to the more normal margin. So is that the case? Are we seeing that here? We might. But then you look at what the normal margin was. About 7 to 8 points. To which Ayers says is still a very substantial deficit. And now, again, you're not going to have any more debates. Even more concerning for Trump is the fact that Wall Street investors are not interested in his campaign. They seem to have no problem with him losing. They actually seem to be more in favor of Biden than anyone else. In fact, this is according to Goldman Sachs analyst Abby Joseph Cohen. Quote, what we're seeing from investors over the last several days is that a blue wave might not be such a bad thing because it would give us more certainty with regard to policy, particularly with regard to the use of fiscal policy to help our economy at this point. So this is Wall Street. These are analysts saying, you idiot, pass the stimulus. You didn't pass the stimulus. Republicans didn't pass the stimulus. And so guess what? We're not interested anymore. All right? You got to stimulate us. We're lacking in the stimulation department. Okay? You got to help us out. Because right now, there's no faith in the Republicans when it comes to the economy, which is normally what they're very strong at. Not like literally, but that's what the perception is. And they have lost that perception. And again, COVID has been a disaster for the markets. It has, the stock markets. It's been great for billionaires like Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. Fantastic for billionaires. If you're a billionaire, you are doing great in this economy. But if you're anyone else, you're not doing well. If you're the restaurant industry, you are not doing well. And so it's been terrible for the markets. And as I said before, you guys know the markets pretty much rule everything in this country. But if you do stuff that messes up the markets, that messes with the markets, you're not going to win. The markets will turn against you. And that's exactly what we've seen from Donald Trump. Again, Donald Trump said, we're going to stop COVID talks. He made that announcement on Twitter. We're going to stop COVID talks until after I win the election. Oh, well, that's real smart. Great. A couple of hours later, he says, I'm going to send out stimulus checks. We're going to send them out. We're going to send them out. If we're waiting on you, Nancy. And then later on, he says, well, yeah, we're going to do more. Don't worry. We're going to do more stimulus. It's going to be tremendous stimulus. But he already spooked the markets because nobody knows what direction he's going to go. And right now, Wall Street's like, we'll go with Biden. And look, let's be honest, okay? Biden is the establishment. Wall Street does great under the establishment. Wall Street did fantastic under Obama. And so all Donald Trump did is give the markets a sugar rush from the tax cuts. Sugar rush, not good for long-term growth. But under Democrats, again, Democrats are corporatists. And so they give the corporations almost everything that they want except for the sugar rush. And so long-term, the markets actually do a lot better under Democrats. Now, as far as actual human beings as citizens, they generally don't do well under either. And let's be honest about that. Regular people still were suffering under Obama. They're suffering on even more under Donald Trump, obviously, and Republicans, but they still suffer under Democrats as well. And so, I mean, that's the unfortunate truth. Unless we get like an economy that actually serves regular people and not the super, super rich, we're going to continue to see that trend. But at the same time, it's the public perception. And now, public perception, according to polls, have seen Biden be the stronger person, being seen as the stronger person on the economy, which traditionally went to Republicans. So he's lost that. He's lost regular people. He's lost the markets. That's never happened before in this election. And every time they lose on the economy issue, whichever candidate loses on that issue loses the election. In fact, the last two incumbents to lose re-election, Jimmy Carter in 1980 and George H.W. Bush in 1992, were ousted following a recession. The 7.9% unemployment rate in September is higher than at the time of either of those losses. No, it's an absolute disaster. It's not looking good. I'm not saying that it's over, but boy, is it looking close to being over. Always watch out, of course, for voter suppression. But understand that Democrats right now in early voting have a massive advantage. Donald Trump's campaign, at the same time, has essentially fallen apart. The wheels are off the bus. I mean, you have Trump's campaign manager, Stepien. I can never remember his first name. But he's out with coronavirus. Donald Trump's got coronavirus. Hope Hicks has coronavirus. Everybody's got coronavirus in the White House. Nobody's driving the bus anymore. It's on fire. It's on fire. And so it's not looking good. That said, all Republicans have left is trying to steal the election. And that's why they're trying to push so hard for Amy Coney Barrett in order to try to throw out as many, mail-in ballots as they can. And so that's why there's got to be a blowout. It has to be a blowout. Do not get complacent. If you haven't already, you can still request an absentee ballot in a lot of different places. Fill it out, send it in. Don't forget to put it in the envelopes that you have to. Read the directions. You've got to get it in there. And also, even when you send it or drop it off, track it to make sure that your vote gets counted. Because in this race, every vote matters. Because they are going to try really, really hard to try to take it from you. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel. by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.